Most of us are taught to measure our lives with a single, simple rule. Try to be a little better than average. If you can outwork, outsmart, or outearn the typical person, you are succeeding. Relying on that logic assumes the baseline is made of steel. We treat the societal average as a static, immovable measurement. In reality, it is a decaying yardstick. If the standard you use to measure yourself is shrinking by an inch every year, your house is getting smaller, even if the ruler tells you the walls are the exact same height. This chart tracks IQ scores across several developed nations over the last century. For decades, human cognitive problem-solving abilities rose steadily, but the line stalls right here, and then drops. This is the empirically observed reverse Flynn effect. The collective baseline for cognitive capability is dropping. Measuring personal growth against a plummeting average creates a dangerous illusion. You can plot yourself comfortably above that main trend line, outperforming the majority of the population. But if the entire curve is in freefall, being mathematically above average means you are still moving downward. You can be better than most and still be objectively unwell. To figure out where we stand, we turn away from our physical neighbors and look to our digital environments. The algorithms governing those spaces actively curate the top 0.1. Extreme sedentary behaviors, like spending consecutive full days entirely in bed, are embraced, rebranded, and normalized as healthy self-care. Even major public health institutions are adjusting their guidance downward, lowering the bare minimums for physical movement just to accommodate a populace that struggles to step out the front door. We are caught in a psychological vice. On one side, a digital mirror demanding perfection. On the other, a physical reality embracing total apathy. We have reached a point where we can no longer trust society to set a healthy standard for us. The way out of this trap is to completely abandon the societal average. We have to forge our own metrics, personal minimum acceptable competencies. Take a look at these two models of goal setting. On the left, you have normative goals. Your success is judged by comparing your single bar to that wildly fluctuating descending average line. On the right, you have mastery approach goals. Here, you measure your progress against an absolute, unmoving steel threshold. You stop asking, am I better than them, and start asking, did I meet my standard? These personal competencies act as non-negotiable baselines. You author them yourself, deciding exactly what level of daily physical movement, deep cognitive engagement, and emotional regulation you require to function properly. In psychology, self-determination theory points out that human well-being relies heavily on autonomy, the ability to author your own rules, and competence, the ability to master those tasks. By defining and hitting your own minimums, you satisfy both needs. Establishing these unyielding baselines creates a psychological firewall.
It insulates your mind from the despair of scrolling through algorithmic perfection, while actively protecting you from the comfortable slide into cultural decay. Opting out of societal standards is a 2,000-year-old survival strategy, tested and refined during the long decline of the Roman Empire. As Romans' civic virtue and physical discipline eroded into a culture of luxury and spectacle, philosophers like Marcus Aurelius recognized the danger of the average. He maintained his own robustness by actively ignoring the decadent norms of his peers, relying instead on self-authored routines of physical discomfort, journaling, and duty. This is the practical application of the Stoic dichotomy of control. You actively separate the things you can manage, like your personal habits and fitness, from the uncontrollable decay of the wider society around you, focusing your emotional energy exclusively on your own actions. But applying this framework today carries obvious risks. The first is the subjectivity trap. If everyone writes their own rulebook, human nature practically guarantees we will set our personal baselines incredibly low to avoid the discomfort of failure. We could end up redefining mediocrity as success. Setting these rigid minimums also assumes a certain level of socioeconomic privilege. Carving out time for deep reading, daily exercise, or environmental volunteering requires a foundation of time, safety, and resources that a very large portion of the population simply does not have.
And if every single person abandons the collective expectations of the group for hyper-individualized metrics, we run into a major sociological problem. We risk permanently losing all the vital shared community standards that make collective action, public health, and education actually function. We need to answer those questions quickly. The historical precedents and manual efforts we have relied on are hitting a point of obsolescence. The room-size systems and human oversight seen here no longer determine the pace of progress. Advanced artificial intelligence and robotics are shifting the global average away from a human baseline toward a mechanical one. This robotic arm from the 1960s was just the first indication that physical dominance was no longer a uniquely human trait. These systems are surpassing human baselines in nearly every category. While robotics took over physical labor, modern models are now outperforming us in cognitive synthesis, pattern recognition, and artistic creation. If we continue to judge our success by comparing ourselves to the average, we are setting ourselves up for a permanent loss of purpose. Measuring your biological limits against a system that never sleeps, never forgets, and never tires is a comparison that is mathematically impossible to win. In a post-labor world, autonomous mechanisms will construct, compute, and perform functional tasks with a level of precision and speed we simply cannot match. The machines won't just do our jobs, they will do them better than the best human ever could. Every external metric society uses to assign value, from productivity to output, effectively becomes obsolete when a machine can produce the same result for nearly zero cost. This leaves us with a final choice. When machines provide every answer and perform every task, the result of our work loses its market value. That shifts the focus entirely to the process. The quiet pursuit of our own personal competencies becomes a final act of agency, the last remaining proof that we are more than just passengers in an automated world.